Support for Donnybrook Last Call is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
Thank you very much for joining us for Last Call. Alvin Reid, you're the son of educators, I believe. Am I correct?
Yes.
So what do you think about the audit of the St. Louis Public Schools that showed that there was some questionable spending? In fact, the credit cards were used at Massage Envy, Planet Fitness, True Fusion, Bath and the Body?
Bath and Body.
That was a big expense.
That was huge.
How much was that? Do we know?
7,000.
Yeah, it was.
That's a lot of soap.
Yes.
That's a lot of Bath and Body.
But it
A
smelled
lot of
good.
lotion.
It smelled
A lot of
good.
lotion.
Not even
Well,
good soap.
I think it just shows that the Board of Education has shown no stewardship, did not fulfill its watchdog role, and as a result should announce that it's tendering resignations tomorrow morning. What do you think?
Well, the people can resign them because they have elections coming up. And I think that the citizens of the city of St. Louis should be given the chance to throw these folks out. It's all out there, and you could, Acacia Scarlet, and that was just completely out of control. I will say this too, a long, long time ago, I learned that either if you have one or you're passing one out, a company credit card, that is like dynamite, and you got to watch that closely, and you got to watch it every month. And it's not a point that people use them to steal. It's just a matter of you want to keep an eye on that, so you can say like, hey, that rental car that you got, that really doesn't fall under the, what you can do, and just kind of like nip it in the bud, as Barney Fife said. But yes, the board is culpable, but the board should have to answer to the people, unless they really just feel so bad that, I resign, and that's not going to happen.
Right. I think I would agree. I would wish that they would do that, because to a person, they hold some responsibility for what happened, each and every one of them, because you're the board and you're supposed to watch over what the superintendent does. And it clearly, again, we come up to one of those situations, either they were watching and didn't care, which is horrific to think about, or they just weren't paying attention and we're saying, yeah, whatever you want to do, you go right ahead and do it. Either way, they let the citizens of St. Louis down. It's that simple. So if they don't lose, which I hope they do, and I think they should all, because I agree with you that they should all be gone in some form or fashion. I agree with you there. But I agree with Alvin, there's a process for it, and you got to follow the process.
And I hate to say that too, Charlie, but I agree, because I'm like you. I want them all like ridden out of town on a rail, honestly. But as Alvin astutely points out, all it does is create more chaos at a time. They don't need more chaos. But this was an unbelievable revelation, this report. It was this is Real Housewives. These are Real Housewives of Beverly Hills money. Right. That's what this is.
Right.
And the fact that she was spending like a drunken sailor, and then that she had the nerve to countersue when she was fired. I mean, I guess that's just what you do, but and maybe this is the way it worked in Seattle, but that is not the way it works.
I doubt it.
It would be bad enough if it was the Acme Widget Company. But these are the children of this city and the future of this city, and it's just so sad.
So I will say, in defense of this board, I mean, they brought this woman in, very ballyhooed, national search, and then within a year, they moved swiftly to fire her. That's a bold move. They had egg on their face because of it. I frankly wonder about the internal controls. I've worked for much smaller companies than St. Louis Public Schools, but it's not the board of directors whose job it is to scrutinize your credit card receipts. There's people in a controller's office or a comptroller or an auditor. There are in an administration this big, there should have been other people that were catching this, and for whatever reason didn't. And so I feel like for this board, obviously, mistakes were made, some big mistakes, but I don't lay it all on their feet. I really don't.
It was all terrible, but to me it was really egregious, and this is where the board or somebody, the fact that she was able to maneuver these people back pay, and they were being paid before they actually moved to the city of St. Louis or the area.
Had board approval.
And got board approval for this. Now that's the one where I said, like, now are you reading what is put in front of you that you vote on? Because anybody would have said, like, are they in St. Louis yet? No. Then why are we paying them?
And I'm sorry,
what about this? When she was working for the district, I believe, Millicent Borashade got a $10,000 trip to an education conference in Japan. Does any administrator in the St. Louis Public Schools with a $30 million deficit this year have any business in Japan learning about Japanese education?
Absolutely
They
not.
need to
And
see
if that
very
came
clear
up
about
in many a
schools.
district that I am familiar with, they'd be gone before the sun came down.
I also got to disagree with Dottie. We say don't want to lay it at the board's feet. That's
agree.
exactly where it says it should
Heavy
be.
is the-
board is
lies the-
responsible for operating
That's
that
right.
district. So there is no other feet to lay it at than the board. There's no one else to blame but the board. They let Keisha Scarlett get away
Run
with what they
wild.
say she did. And moving fast, they moved fast because they got tired of opening up the newspaper or turning on
That's
the
right.
television
Blanche.
and hearing reports about it. So this idea that all of a sudden they said, we've uncovered, I don't remember the school board calling anybody going, we have a story for you. That's not how this happened. And the Board of Education is ultimately responsible for how that district is operated. Their feet is where it needs to lie.
What's
period.
the saying? Because I'm not smart enough to be a school superintendent. Heavy lies ahead. Or
That wears the crown.
That wears the crown, and that is actually where the.
And they fired her in a year. Again, there's a lot of
Less than a
times
year,
that
really.
less
Faster
than a year.
than the money.
But we're
People
talking
will
about the
stick
board.
with the
Yeah.
guy they brought in because they don't want the embarrassment of everything that is coming out now. They moved fast on this. When these things came to light, they took action. I don't want to see them resign right now, in part because of the whole chaos.
And
may
I
not-
think
may
they
not-
had to take action.
Yeah,
They
You
They
may
did
not recall
because of
as
your colleague.
recently as last summer, the superintendent, the then superintendent, was asking for Rams money. Remember?
Yeah.
And perhaps she needed more Bath and Body. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
stuff's not cheap.
But
They've got great candles.
a pretty dismal report on school test scores. We only have about 2 minutes to go in the program. But area-wide, school district by school district, there's really not much improvement over the scores from 2019. Our post-COVID test scores are not that good. Sarah, you also are the daughter of an educator. Your dad, 54 years at Lutheran West High School as a
Right.
teacher.
And my mom was also a teacher as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank them for me. But do you think we need a sixth day of school or more pay for teachers or what?
No, I would like to not see a sixth day of school. I think part of the problem that's plaguing modern education right now is teachers are being forced to teach to these tests, these, sort of national standards that we've brought in. They've eliminated a lot of the creativity that allowed people like my dad to be great teachers. It's very frustrating for teachers. I think the other big problem is that we have a lot of administrations and school boards that don't have the teachers' backs. And we've got some kids that maybe have some real disciplinary issues, and parents who don't want to hear about the disciplinary issues, and administrators who just don't want to rock the boat. I think there's some big systemic problems here, but I don't think it's solved by gluing these kids to their seats for even longer. They need to be outside playing. They need a break from this stuff.
In Japan, they have a sixth day, and in South Korea, too.
I hate that. I mean, I've got little kids, and the idea of them having to go to school for even a few hours more than what they go to school, that's not what their childhood should be about.
My 32-year-old daughter didn't forgive Charlie until her wedding, and she was sending him a wedding invitation for proposing that very thing when she was a little girl. She said, he's got to be kidding.
I think that was summer school I proposed.
Oh, just as
No,
bad.
you
Was it
were
a-
Wow,
six-
that's
you
even
were
worse
you
than
were
Saturday
six
school.
days
Charlie.
away.
Okay, yeah.
But
You're
she
blaming
loves
the
you
victims
now.
here.
I was
She loves you
persona non
now.
grata in Wendy's household for about 25
You
years.
really made the 10-year-old mad.
Wait till my kids catch wind of this, Charlie.
I think it's not like that the public school district scores have been spiking high, but
Right.
I think we really are still getting the COVID fallout.
And before COVID.
And everybody before was saying, I remember when COVID was on and everybody didn't want to talk about it, but they're saying this is going to be terrible for schools, and everybody said, oh no, that's all a good thing. It was terrible for schools. It set kids behind so far. And it was almost like you missed a year of school, as if you sat at home.
Well-
I mean, and think of what would have happened to any of us if all of a sudden between 6th and 7th grade they just said, you don't have to go to school this year, and then you had to go back, you'd have been behind.
Well,
and
all
we're
I can
paying
say,
that price.
All I can say is thank goodness the test scores for the panelists around this table were very high back in the day. That's why we're in the communications business. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.